Right. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining. It's great to have you all with us. I think we're about a minute past 9:30, so we'll go ahead and get our presentation started for you all. Wanted to do a quick introduction of our team. My name is Brad Schieber. My title is Vice President of Sales at Zingtree. I have responsibility and look after our global accounts, all of our enterprise accounts worldwide. My team takes care of, and many of you on the call today we know very well. So thanks for joining us. And I have my colleague GT with me, who many of you know as well. But GT, if you want to say hi this morning.
Yeah, hey everybody. So my name is Guillaume Terral. I go by GT. So feel free to call me GT. I'm the Vice President of Solutions here at Zingtree. And in my role, I oversee strategic initiatives that align our solutions with our clients' need to help drive impactful outcomes. I've been with Zingtree for 5 years, and I've talked to many of you on the call. Also looking forward to getting to know some of the others that we haven't talked to before and answer any questions that might come out of this webinar.
Perfect. Thank you, GT. Before we jump into all of the good info we've got for you today on the platform, I wanted to just take a quick moment to pause. As many of you, we have actually, just for everyone's benefit, we have a global audience today. Zingtree is working with customers now in just over 50 countries around the world. So we've got a mixed bag of folks on the session today. But here in the U.S., it's Thanksgiving week, so it's a perfect opportunity for us to say thank you to everyone who joined, not just for sharing your time with us today, but also for your business. We really do appreciate the opportunity we've had to work with all of you. It's been a really, really great ride for Zingtree over the last few years, and that's a big reason why we wanted to get together today. Many of you who are with us, we talk to all the time. You know, we work very closely day in and day out, attacking CX challenges throughout your organizations. But for others, we don't always get the opportunity to connect. So we were very excited to see the large turnout that we had for this session today. And for those of you who we haven't spoken with for a while, we're doubly excited because there's a lot of things that have been going on at Zingtree over the last couple of years. For many of you, almost all of you probably found Zingtree on your own. You had some kind of challenge in your organization. You looked around online and you stumbled across Zingtree. And thankfully, it's a pretty easy platform to deploy traditionally, and many of you have implemented Zingtree, and you're doing really cool things with it to impact your KPIs in customer success and customer experience. But there is so much more that we've done, and we're very excited to get into this because we've really taken Zingtree to some new heights with some of the latest features and functionality that have been released, and we're just very excited to get that information in front of everyone so you can start taking advantage of what Zingtree has to offer. So we'll just kind of continue forward. So just to kind of build on what I was just mentioning about our history as a company, again, those of you on the call today have implemented Zingtree probably in some sort of customer support application. I think you're very familiar with Zingtree historically and what we've been able to do to very quickly build out flows, standardized flows, to deliver information in a very organized way, step by step, the right information at the right time to allow the user, whether that's someone sitting in a contact center, taking calls or supporting emails or chats, or whether it's been deployed out for customers to come and find answers to problems themselves. You're familiar with the ability to do that really quickly and really simply to address those challenges. And some of you on the call have even gone the next step and with some of the components we've had to connect Zingtree to a few of your core systems. And that typically looks like using one of our packaged applications to maybe plug into things like Zendesk or Salesforce or ServiceNow or Five9 and other contact center platforms, et cetera. And you were using those pieces that Zingtree built for you to plug in and quickly be able to use a little bit of data from those systems to drive how the workflows in Zingtree can operate. Well, a big part of what we're here to talk about today is taking that concept of using data to make your trees even smarter. And with the recent releases from Zingtree, we've blown that idea wide open. We have completely opened up Zingtree so that we can interact with data throughout your organization to really get the most value out of how these workflows can operate. So we're going to spend some time today going through that with you. We're going to show you a few examples and hopefully have some dialogue with you about how you too could take advantage of that kind of integration. So moving along here, one of the things that we've seen challenge-wise, I think I missed something there. Yep. Challenge-wise is that when we sit down with our customers and look at how they're deployed, most of our customers still have agents working across multiple platforms. And what that means is, your agents are hopping across different tabs, looking for information while they're trying to support a customer. Obviously not the most efficient way to provide customer support. It can create lots of challenges around training, customer sat, the experience isn't great, stressful for agents, et cetera. But that's a pretty common theme that we see across our install base. Kind of along those same lines, we've seen plenty of cases where, hey, we've deployed Zingtree. It's been amazing for our new agents. They really rely on it to start to learn how to handle certain topics, how to guide a customer through a conversation. But as they get more tenured, maybe they don't see as much need for that type of tool or guidance in their day-to-day conversations. And so that's come up quite a bit. And we've also seen when our customers have taken Zingtree and deployed it for customer self-help solutions, they're typically going out and looking at old models like FAQs and thinking about how can we make this more interactive and really make it much easier for our customers to find the right resolution for their specific need. And that's been great for them, but the self-help model is sort of limited if they can't actually take the action on doing getting the help that they needed. It's just more of an informational source. And then lastly, we've been getting feedback from a lot of our clients who have been a little early to adopt AI components. And, frankly, the results haven't quite lived up to the expectation that everyone had so far, because they found that plugging AI directly into their content has left a lot of room for mistakes, for hallucinations, and they're lacking the kind of guardrails they need to really be successful with that technology. So when you look at that kind of set of challenges, that's really at the center of what Zingtree has been building around and building for. And so with that in mind, we're really, really happy to introduce this new concept that Zingtree has called Zingtree Actions. And it allows us to start to build out more of that process capability using our same no-code platform that you guys are all familiar with today. So what does that all mean? It means that we're able to apply that next level of data, again, to make your processes more intelligent and provide more automation. So we want to go beyond a model where we can build plugins just for your CRM or for your CCaaS platforms, but give you the tools that you need, and still in a very componentized way, to allow you to very quickly connect your workflows out to data wherever it exists in your organization. And that's a concept that we have through Zingtree Actions and through our Zingtree connector framework, which we're going to get into and talk more about and show you some examples of very shortly. But what do we do with that? It allows us to do some really key things to impact your KPIs. First and foremost, because we have this easy way to let Zingtree talk to multiple systems, we're able to move past the world where agents have to jump around from screen to screen to find the information they need, to make updates in other systems, et cetera. That all can be done directly from Zingtree today. It allows us to get the relevant data they need to make decisions, to drive what the tree is going to do in next steps, and provide more automation, which drives down training, ramps up, the first call resolution, and really does, what you need to make your processes, more consistent. And then lastly, we're able to update data from within Zingtree. So we're keeping data very consistent, very accurate, and eliminating a lot of the mistakes that happens when people are jumping around from tab to tab and trying to keep up with the customer. So that's a big piece of what we're doing. We're also, though, providing a lot of automation. In a few minutes, GT is going to show you a couple demo examples where we can start to use context that we know about a customer. As let's just take a call example, an inbound call, where, as the call comes through, we can be aware of who a customer is, And before the agent even starts to engage the customer, we can have a lot of the information about them available right in front of the agent. And we can even start to make some decisions up front about what the next best action is going to be. And sometimes we're able to cut out 4, 5, 6 steps for customer experience teams just by pulling that data together on the front end of a call. It really makes the workflows a lot more useful. It's going to really impact the early results we're getting from our clients who have adopted already have been massive for AHT. So that's something that we definitely want to dig into more with all of you. And then lastly, we think it's really important as you're thinking about your AI strategy to give some thought to how do we really deploy this in a way that is safe and effective and really still builds upon the highly standardized business processes that we've created within our organizations that we know are reliable, but that we want to start to apply a little more automation to, and also allow the AI to give, either more direct answers to the customers if they're coming in through things like chatbots or websites, support sites, or to an agent where there may be a lot of training required to understand complex scenarios where the AI can help that agent out. But we're not ready to just turn the AI loose on its own. We still want to plug it into some standardized processes similar to what Zingtree can provide. And so we're building that framework now to allow you to kind of have the best of both worlds. And again, we'll talk more about that in a few minutes in some of the demos. So those are kind of some of the key ideas that we wanted to cover just to kick this off. I'm going to hand this over to GT now so he can walk through a couple demo examples.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Brad. So let me take over the screen here. And share mine. So, obviously there are dozens, hundreds, thousands of different use cases, right? Each company is different. Each ecosystem is different. Each particular use case is different. You guys have your own, systems in place, your own protocols, SOPs, etc. So what I really want to focus on today is not so much this particular use case, but more the actual features that are involved in what we're about to show you. In this particular example, I think you all are familiar that Zingtree can be iframed into your website, right? And so we can imagine that this is an experience where somebody goes on your website and wants to make a claim. Now, again, this experience can be consumed on the customer self-help page, but also as an agent. So you could put that exact same tree, excuse me, and these functionalities into your CRM or into your telephony system. So let me get going here, and then we'll imagine that somebody wants to make a new claim. I'm Barbara. I navigate on the website, and I navigate to where I can actually start filing a claim. So the first thing that I'll be asked to do is to provide a policy number. So once I look at my policy number and I enter it here, what's going to happen on the background is sort of, some of the things that Brad just mentioned around CX actions. And in this particular case, we're going to, we've integrated with Salesforce, but we can also integrate with any other third-party system that supports, that has an HTTP interface and returns JSON back to us, very similarly to what Postman does. So I'm going to put in the policy number, go into that system, and retrieve all of the orders associated with that policy. Now, notice that, this is a standalone page. I'm not logged into anything. This is an unauthenticated experience. So click on next. I go into the database and I retrieve the orders. Now, this is something that is new for a lot of you, and it's what we call dynamic display, right? The ability to fetch information and not know how many returns we'll get back, whether it's 1 or 5 or 20, but still have the ability to display that and then perform an action based on the selection, right? So again, a lot of this is fully customizable, from the columns that we choose to display to the names of the columns, right? In this particular case, where there are 4 products associated to that policy number, 2 of them are active, 2 of them are inactive. And what CX actions allows us to do is to take the end user down a path depending on the values of some of these, right? So let me go down the path of this Panasonic here. and Barbara wants to file a claim for this product. Well, it turns out that the policy is inactive, so then we can take them down via logic, saying, hey, this is no longer active. Would you like to reactivate, right? So in this case, maybe an upsell opportunity. But let me walk you down the path of a product that does have an active policy. So I'll proceed. And then we'll go through some of the regular things that you all are super familiar with Linktree, the ability to collect information, and then based on the information collected, apply logic to route to the right outcome. So in this particular case, we're still determining whether or not this claim will be accepted. So my device, it fell on the floor, let's say. Okay. I'll acknowledge that it is my mobile, click on next. We'll choose the 48-hour delivery method, right? So at this point, we've decided as a business that we're going to replace the device. We're going to accept, right? And confirm the shipping information. Again, the reason that's important is that I'm not authenticated, right? But because I gave my policy ID, I can tap into the system, get all sorts of information, and then return it back, right? And then click on continue. So now a lot of things are happening in the background, again, using CX actions. In the case of Salesforce, what we're doing is we're creating a claim, right? We're associating a case with that claim, and then we're assigning a workflow for that particular case to be used by the agent on the back end of this, right? In this fake business scenario, what we're saying is that we're still going to require the involvement of a human to approve the final claim. Now, your business could have said, no, it's automatically accepted, right? But to kind of show you what the agent would go through and using CX actions, we decided to kind of involve the human at the end there. Okay, so now let me move over to Salesforce. You'll notice that there are no claims here. So let me just refresh this. And this MacBook Pro claim just came through. Now, you guys are familiar with this. Obviously, we're able to update the fields here to some of the values that were input by the end user. But what is new here is the ability to kind of create this record, but also associate it with other records. In this case, this was order 101. Okay, we passed in the transcript as well to make it easier. So now if I go to the cases, then I also see a new case. It was created at the same time for the MacBook Pro claim, which is this one, 9714. So I click on that. And now it's the turn of the agent to kind of do their work. So they see this ticket coming in. It's to validate a MacBook Pro claim. And so per the business process, they need to just review it one last time before they decide to approve it, reject it, or just escalate it. So again, we pass in all the information that's needed to make that decision. Linktree is a component within the Salesforce app exchange, and so you can just place it anywhere in the page layout. And so as an agent now, I'm directed directly to the workflow that is aimed at approving, rejecting, or escalating this claim, right? I don't need to click on anything. The first page that I see is, okay, should I approve it, reject it, or escalate? So a short description of the claim itself. And in a click of one button, I'm going to do a lot of different things, right? I'm going to assume that I'm going to approve this particular claim. And in one shot, we close accepted the claim, this other record. We closed this particular case. We've also added a case comment, right? Again, it's a business decision, but you can add case comment. You can create tasks. You can do all sorts of things. So if I go to feed here, you'll see that this is what we decide to put as a case comment. Could have been anything. In fact, it could have been free form. We could have required the agent to kind of put in their own comment if we wanted to. And if I go to the case details, then you'll see that the case itself was also closed, right? So that as an agent, I was able to get the case, get all the context I needed to make my decision, and one click of a button, create, perform all these different tasks that would have taken me longer to do before. I didn't have to go to the claim to close it. I didn't have to, in Zinc3, select the drop down here and mark it as closed. I didn't have to go into the feed and put in my comments. All these are directions that you give your agents to do. Let's just automate some of it. So that is the gist of what CX Action does. Brad, I can pass it back to you if you want to move on to the rest of the presentation.
Sure. Yeah, we'll pass it back over to GT here in just a few minutes to show some more things, but let me reshare my screen. So just as food for thought for everyone on the call, GT was walking us through an example of a claims scenario, and we were thinking of it starting on the customer facing side and showing some interaction where we were asking customers for information from them, being able to use data from external systems to drive what happened next in that customer self-service experience, and then transfer that back over to what would happen if an agent, picked up this activity back, on your side of the call. So just to keep in mind, right? I know that we have just about every industry there is, on this call today. So you're not all processing claims, but hopefully the concept of how we can use data to drive that activity and connect a customer self-service experience to an agent experience, hopefully that came through for you and what some of the power of that might be. But we know that there are lots of use cases that you might be thinking about for your particular business. We talk a lot about, we have a lot of clients that are using us in consumer products, for example, where as a support conversation may begin, there's a few set of steps that have to happen where maybe I'm first going to just say, do I know who this customer is? Do I know what product that they're talking about? Is the product under warranty? There's a set of, several things that have to be determined right at the front end of the call. In the old world where the agent had to go look in multiple systems, maybe even to find that information, we can replace that by on the inbound call, we can be grabbing that information right up front based on some kind of intent, maybe that we picked up through an IVR, through a voice IVR, any number of ways that we might discover intent, but start to really pull that context together right at the beginning of the call to make a huge impact in the amount of time it takes to service the customer, and ultimately give them a really good feeling like, hey, my vendor, knows who I am. They know what my business is, and they want to help me quickly. So that's all good for customer experience. So, we're doing things like that every day now with our customers, and it's a real shift in thinking about how you deploy Zinc3 from a more of a static, step-by-step knowledge delivery tool to a much more fully integrated workflow process that can really make a huge impact on your business. So think about those types of use cases, whether or not it's an agent assist, where the agents are driving the kind of automation behind the scenes, or if it's a self-service application where hopefully there are ways now, because we can touch other data, touch data from other systems, maybe we can bring up more topics through self-service that can just be done completely by the customer and avoid calls into the contact center completely. So any number of ways that our customers are beginning to take advantage of this. And as I mentioned earlier, we've deployed with several of our large customers already, and the results have been pretty awesome. We're happy to kind of take that offline and share more of that with you when you have questions. And I should also mention, if you have any questions while we're chatting today, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A and we'll come back to them at the end of the session. So I wanted to pause just for a moment because we've been talking about integration. We've been talking about how we can use data to make processes smarter. And so I know a lot of the people on the call today are authors in Zinc3. So you've spent time in our authoring platform. You understand the power of what we have from a no-code standpoint, that you can pretty quickly start building out workflows. And as we introduce this new ability to start interacting with data, you may be kind of wondering, how does this get set up? And what does it mean for you in terms of, how do you go get resources on your side to help us get the piping created between these other data services that we've been talking about, things like Salesforce, ServiceNow, et cetera. So we wanted to make sure we touched on that today to make it really clear that we still, Zingtree, in our DNA, we are still a no-code platform built for authors, people who are process experts, who understand the processes and the knowledge that are needed to drive customer service. We're not going to move away from that. And you'll start to see some new capabilities for sure popping up in the author experience, but we're still very committed to giving you the tools to build, manage, maintain, update, and do what you need to do with your workflows day in and day out. Now, having said that, with this power to use data from other other locations, there is some more work that we have to do with your teammates who may be sysadmins, who may be folks who have responsibility for other systems in your organization, where we do have to have some interaction. And so we want to help you have that conversation. If you think there's a way to use data from other systems to make you better, we want to help you pave that path. And we've built out some really good tools to help you do that. So we wanted to just kind of briefly talk about how we do it to give you some sense of what you would be asking for help in your organization and the type of commitment you'll need from your teams. And so what you're seeing here on the screen right now is our universal connector. This is one of a couple of connectors we have that allow us to touch other data sets. And what we've done is really boiled it down to 3 steps that you're going to have to go through to get these connections made. Now, the first 2 steps are the steps that we kind of consider creating that first connection to that other system, in step 1. And in step 2, start to identify what data do we want to interact with and in what fashion do we want to interact with it. These 2 steps are really where we're going to need help from, or where you'll need help from folks in your organization that can help us do things like set up the authentication, right? Our system has to talk to, your inventory management system or your warranty system or whatever it might be. And there are standards for authentication that we're going to have to work with your admins to understand, but GT is going to show you in just a few minutes how quickly we can set this up. And typically this type of work can be done in about a half an hour if we can get access to the right people on your team. The second step then is creating this object where we define how do we want to interact with the data and what data do we want to pull down. A couple important things to note there. Zingtree is not going to replicate the data that you have in those other systems. We just want access to it to use it for our purposes in the workflow, and then we're done with it. We're not going to become yet another silo of data that has to be managed for your organization. So that's a very important note to have when you're thinking about how you can work with your teammates.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Brad, and I'll show it in on the back end. But what we do is we give you the ability, right, to kind of just cache that information, right, whether it's for 5 minutes or up to an hour. Again, super important that you all aware that we don't actually hold any of that data into into our system. In fact, we don't really want it. We just want to use what's useful for the workflow to drive the next best action.
Exactly. Well said, GT. So the net of this for everyone on the call, these 2 steps are where we need help from folks outside of your organization. They're pretty simple and straightforward. Of course, we'll spend some time with you up front to help make sure we understand, you understand what's required. But these are the places where we need help from IT. But when we get to step 3, now we're back in the land of authors, right? We're back into the Zingtree authoring tool set that you're familiar with. Like I said, there's some new capabilities popping up there once you have access to Zingtree Action that we'll take you through and help you learn how to use really, really well. In fact, we can do it with you now. We have a services team ready to go to come in right alongside you and help build these things out as you're getting started. But we're still, I thought it was important to touch on because we want to make it very clear that while we are introducing some sophistication in integration, we're still very committed to helping you as authors build out your own processes. So I'm going to shut up again and let GT walk you through exactly how you could go about setting these things up.
Please, Brad, don't ever shut up. We can we never get tired of hearing you.
Yeah.
All right, let me just take the screen over here and get on the right page for you all. Okay. And hopefully this is not going to take long. Again, I'm mostly going to repeat what Brad just showed you. on his screen and talk through, a couple of things here on the left-hand side, which is going to be the external sources, the connected objects, right? And so this is how we connect to systems. The basic premise is that we have two connectors, this HTTP universal connector and Salesforce connector, which is a first-class connector. Let me start now with the Salesforce first-class connector. Okay, so once you've, all you need to do really is create a connected app. Now, it will require your admin to do that. And then using OAuth 2 client credentials, pass the client ID, the client secret, and then save the settings, right? So again, we said about 30 minutes to set that up. We mean it, right? I mean, it's just creating the connected app. We have some documentation or video to kind of show you that, and then put in this information here, and good. Now we have the connection to Salesforce, right? Now let me just show you real quick the connection to a universal connector. And the connection to universal connector, the way I like to describe it, if you may or may not actually, I know there's a bunch of technical people here. Not everybody's technical on this call, but it works very much like Postman, right? So first we need to figure out what the authentication looks like. We support most, if not all, of the major authentication types, right? Including digital certificates, but basic auth, pair token, OAuth 2, etc. You put in the information needed, required, and then you save the settings, and that's it. You're done. Now, there's no data flowing yet, right? But we made the connection, and at some points in your flows, you'll want to be able to kind of either grab data or push data or update data. Okay, so great. So now we've created our external source. Now we want to create what we call a connected object, and that's when this is where you're going to manipulate the data. Either bring it into Zingtree with a retrieve or get method, or create it with a post method, update it or delete it. Now, I'm showing you here very specifically, this is a Salesforce connected object. You give it a name, a description. This is where you cache the information, right? So for up to 36 seconds. You choose the number of records you want back by default, or not by default, but max, so this is 50. And then you select the account or the object, I should say, that you want to kind of interact with. So you could use, case, type in case, and then we would retrieve all of the case fields that are associated, as per your particular instance. So it's case, but it's also any custom objects. It's also comments, right? Case comments is up there somewhere. There it is. Macros, all sorts of things, tasks, all sorts of things that are available. Basically, whatever is available via the APIs that you're going to give us access to via the connected app in Salesforce. So that's how you create a connected object, right? Again, this is to retrieve. So let me go back to account here, show you the rest. Now, this part, we've seen both Salesforce admins, but also authors actually handle this because it's further productized. If you're an author and you know the business process and you're familiar with Salesforce, you can go in here and say, you know what? I'm going to need the account phone, the account name, the account ID, the status over here, and you can pick that yourself. You can even add clause groups, right? So this is to say on the get method, if you retrieve information, let me get all the information from an account if I feed you the right account ID, right? Or if I feed you the right account ID as well as the right there's probably some sort of email associated here. Yeah, account email. So if both of these are true, right, then we'll be able to retrieve all of the information for this particular account. Okay, so that's on the Salesforce connected object. On the universal connector, same thing. We support get, post, put, patch, and delete, right? You give it a name, you give it an endpoint. You can pass in dynamic content as well in the endpoint if you want to. So the way you pass it is with $sign and then curly brackets, right? Similarly to Postman, as I was saying earlier, you can pass in request headers and then query parameters. Again, these values can be dynamic, right? So this could be varb here, and then you go on to test your endpoint, right? When you test your endpoint, you'll test the answer that you get back from the endpoint, and then you'll create your schema. Again, you'll choose how long you want to cache that information for, and that's it, and you're done. Now, this part requires somebody a little bit more technical, or at least somebody who's familiar with API endpoints, right? What we're seeing is that some systems like Customer or Zendesk or Five9 have obviously super extensive API documentation, and we can provide a lot of help setting that up for you guys, right? But we also see customers use homegrown systems and APIs, and that works very well for them, right? It gives them the flexibility to kind of bring the data that they need for that particular workflow. Now, let me show you one last thing, because you've created the connection, you've created the source, right? The connected object, but then how do you use it as an author, right? So we've added this concept of new data connected node. When you click on new data connected node, this is going to look like this, and you'll get to choose the connected object that you've just created, which are obviously reusable across many different trees. And we give you a preview of what that connected object is, and you can put more than one. So in this particular case, I told you earlier, right? We're putting a case comment, we are updating the claim, we're updating the case, all into one click, right? And then we even go into some logic to figure out if what you did on the previous step, right? So this is how you leverage the power of the connected objects, the CX actions, and logic within Zingtree. All right, that's it for the back end, Brad. Back to you.
Great. Actually, GT, before you jump back, there was a question that came in about the connected app process in Salesforce and Zingtree, and the question is, does that integration remain the same? So I thought maybe if you could just touch on the difference between our standard applications for integration and what we're doing with Zingtree actions.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with saying that the connected app process within Salesforce is the same. The same way that you used to have to create one for standard webhook, you need to create a new one for this. The difference is what we do then with that connected app, right? But it is the same Salesforce connected app process. We need the client secret, we need the client ID. Obviously, the main difference is that with actions, you can do so many more things, right? You can link various records together. You can get information back from a record and do something else with it. You can create tasks on a record. You can put case comments. Whatever the APIs allow you to do is your only restriction. Whereas previously, the only thing you could do was create a case record, and if you were outside of Salesforce, you couldn't even update it, right? Because you couldn't get the information from it.
Thanks, GT. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you have follow-ups or other questions, please drop them into the Q&A, and we'll grab those and get back to you as we work through the presentation. So I'm going to take it back for just a couple minutes, and GT, I think we're going to come back to you for one more time.
Yeah.
I think. But let me touch on a couple of things, and then we'll get back to the last demo. So we just spent a bunch of time talking about this connector setup. And we didn't, for those of you on the call who are more like me, that maybe are more authors and not super technical, we didn't show you that to scare you. We showed you that to make it really clear that this is truly a configurable integration. This is something that we can go forward with confidence to the people on your team to say, here's how we can do this. It's straightforward. And I wanted to just mention that we have documentation on how to set this up. We can share that with you if you want to share it with your team. We've got folks like GT ready to jump on calls with you and your teammates to talk through this in much more detail. So we want to have those conversations. And we also have people on our team to sit down with you and look at your current workflows to say, how are we using Zingtree today? And if we were to think about how we might apply this new integration capability, how would we do it? Like, what would that look like? We're ready to have that conversation as well. It's been a great tool for us to sit down side by side and look at the flows and start to point out where we think we can make an impact. And along with that, as we're identifying those integration points, doing things like saying, hey, I think if we did this, I think we could cut 10, 20 seconds off this call, things like that, which start to roll down into a business case that we're also, ready to go. We have tools and templates and things like that to help you build out a business case for how this can really impact your business. So we really welcome those conversations and hope you'll take us up on that.
Yeah. And one thing also that at the risk of stating the obvious, I didn't actually explicitly mention it. But the power of this is that you can now, from a single interface, interact with 1, 2, 3, 4 different systems, right? So that you can grab information from Salesforce, push it back into some other system of records, grab information from yet another system of record, push it into Salesforce or in front of the agent, right? When you're not limited to just one source. Now you have this single interface where the agent is able to do all the tasks they need to do from all these various systems so that they don't need to go into 5 different tabs to perform these tasks.
Yep, exactly. Tons of power in what GT just mentioned. So we can really start to become a hub for process automation through Zingtree. So, okay, so we've talked a lot about what we've released, some of the changes that you're seeing in Zingtree today. There's actually a lot more feature function that we could go into, and we can't cover it all in an hour. But we wanted to, at least for a few moments, start to look forward and share some of the things that will be coming from Zingtree over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. So if you look at the slide that we're sharing right now, the box on the left where we talk about the whole process of create, unify, and automate. The first 2 boxes here are sort of the Zingtree that you've known, to some extent, utilizing some of our out-of-the-box integrations. We've just talked a lot more about what we can do with actions to start to add more automation to the customer experience. And as we start to shift forward, moving through the end of this year and into 2025, we're adding some more advanced capability that we're excited about. AI is the topic. We're all looking at ways that this technology can impact the way we're delivering services, how our products function, what it means in our day-to-day activity in the business. And Zingtree is certainly no different. We've been working on this now for a long time and thinking about how we can really safely and effectively deploy AI technologies. So one of the first pieces that you'll see coming in the future is the concept of AI actions. And I think GT, we're going to kind of jump in and start to give a little bit of a preview of what this can look like. But the idea here is that we're starting to build on the concept of using data from other systems as well. So we can, things like what we call static data, things like customer information in your CRM, maybe inventory data, things like that live in nice, neat rows and columns in your system databases. Be able to have access to that information, that context, start to combine standardized business processes that work for your organization. They're going to meet compliance standards that are best practices, that meet consistency training for your agents. And we know these things work and are very well documented and understood. Taking data, process, and then third, the sort of situational data, the data that's completely unique to that moment through the interaction with the customer, whether it's on the phone, through a chat, through an email, et cetera. Those sort of new little situational data elements, combining that in with those other 2 pieces to give that to the AI to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. How can you help us? And that could take a lot of different, forms and outcomes depending on how you choose to deploy it. But the main thing here is that we're using very reliable data. We're using standardized processes that we all know and believe in, that maybe are even certified by your organization. And we're using, the correct moment, in the moment data to get to the right outcome. And our kind of our mantra here is no hallucination and high reliability. And that's really driving our vision at Zingtree for how AI should be used in the customer experience. So we're going to jump into that in a moment and show you a preview of what that might look like in a use case. But just to build on what's coming then next, AI autoflows. Again, lots of authors on this call. You know what it takes to build a workflow. It's pretty easy in Zingtree, right? You can sit down and start configuring and building out workflows pretty quickly, which is one of our great strengths. We're doubling down on that to start to use AI to look at your content and start to suggest a starting point workflow so you can avoid some of those very early steps in the authoring process. Now, not guaranteeing, fully polished functioning workflows at the end of this AI application, but we think we can really speed forward the process of doing some of that foundational work to get your trees started. So that's under development right now. We expect that to be coming out in 2025 as well. And then lastly, the big one would be what we call AI agents. And this is a term that you've seen probably bouncing around in the industry. I want to just touch on that for a moment because AI agents in our world, could be a little bit confusing. As a technology term, we're talking about an agent as a chunk of software that can be sort of built to execute on some number of steps in any kind of interaction, right? Any kind of transaction or interaction with a customer. But it's really, that term is really more about the technology of the code that goes and does its thing. It's separate from the idea of a contact center agent, a person who's working in a contact center. So it's important to kind of separate those two things as we talk about this. But we believe in the AI agent concept, and we think that's the next iteration of some of this automation and data interaction that we're starting to set up right now that you've seen in our presentation today, so that we can really take automation to the next step. We can start to predict things that are happening in the moment. We can trigger tasks to happen behind the scenes with maybe without or with little human interaction, depending on the process and what you're comfortable with doing. But this will definitely take automation to a whole new level. You're going to be hearing a lot about AI agents over the next couple of years, if you haven't already. And Zingtree is right in the middle of that conversation, and you'll be hearing a lot more from us on that topic. So that's a very, very high level view of what's coming. We're going to go back to the AI actions concept though now, and GT is going to jump back in with one more demo.
Perfect. Yeah, no, this is really cool. Lots of exciting things to kind of look forward to. So, to Brad's point, right, what we call AI actions is in early form, right? But we do have working tech towards it. We're looking to further productize this, right? But it is something that's leverageable right now. But the idea is that you would grab information from your database, right? So in this case, I'm going to put in a patient's email, and then grab information about this particular patient. This is the static data that Brad was kind of referring to earlier. So neat column, neat row, in some sort of database. And I return information about Deborah, right? Medical history, gender, age, allergies. Obviously, it could be anything, right? It could be about a product. It could be purchase history of a particular client and all the products that are available, right? Then we go into what Zingtree is really good at: collecting situational data, things that cannot live into a database because it depends on the time of the day. How I'm feeling today, right, is not something that you're going to keep in your database somewhere. Certainly not today. Maybe how I was feeling yesterday, you might want to keep it, but how I'm feeling right now, you don't have it. So Zingtree kind of collects it. So, okay, so I'm feeling unwell. My stomach is hurting, and then can answer further questions about the pain, where it's coming from, where it's located, how it looks. And then we go into the AI generated piece. We're going to leverage the static data in your CRM. We're going to leverage the situational data that we just collected. We're also going to leverage other sort of data, like if we have a long list of providers in this particular case, and their specialty, along with the locations that they work out. Maybe a long list of of medication and what they do and what they're typically used for, right? But again, this is just a use case. Think about in your business what that would look like. It could be products, it could be anything. And then from there, you can get a recommendation because you have all these sources of information that are being pulled together and then kind of sorted through by AI. And what AI is really good at is going through large amount of information and then kind of summarizing it. And so in this particular case, the recommendation is that because you are a 13-year-old female experiencing sudden and constant pain in the lower right abdomen, it's important to consider conditions like appendicitis, right? And then it gives recommendations what to do: seek medical attention, avoid taking over-the-counter medications, all that good stuff. And then again, because it was a stomach issue, right? Then we recommended, or the AI recommended, gastroenterologists in Michigan, where Deb is, and their contact information, right? So all that information, and the more information you can give the large language model, the more accurate you're going to be. Now imagine if I went to ChatGPT and I said, my stomach hurts, right? They would have been really good at generating an answer, right? It would have, you had a long paragraph. But how accurate to your particular situation would it have been, right? It would have been hit or miss. Now you added access to provider information, to medication information, to the patient data, to situational data, and you have something that's much more custom and accurate to the end user. Cool, that's it, Brad.
Excellent. Thanks, GT. Well, great guys. And thanks for showing that. I think I would just double back to say this is a functionality that GT just showed that we actually can we're starting to work with now. We've built out some early solutions with it. What you'll begin to see early 2025 is that these components to build what GT just showed you will start to show up in the authoring experience. And we're going to make it very easy to start to create these sort of like GPT prompts to drive the kind of AI responses within a workflow that GT just showed you. So we're really excited about that as well. I'm going to go back and share. I think that we've just about covered everything that we wanted to get into today. So I would just ask if anyone here, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A chat, and we'll happily get back to you with that stuff.
Yeah. So I see there's a few questions here that we can maybe go through. Definitely feel free to drop more though. I'll mention also, if you guys have systems that are others than the one we showed you, feel free to reach out to us. We've done stuff obviously with Zendesk, customer 5.9. We had a demo for 5.9 that we didn't get to today. But there's a lot of other things that we'd be happy to show you. And also, more importantly, talk through with you guys. Okay, so there's a question about Zendesk. And so Zendesk integration, sure. So we have a full integration with Zendesk. We are in the App Store in Zendesk. You are able to resurface trees based on various methods in Zendesk, whether it's by brand or by tag or using our logic. Zendesk also has an extensive set of APIs, which we can leverage to, launch macros, create related tickets, do all sorts of things that create new users, whatever the case may be, but also some new things that you can do with the Zendesk APIs. Brad, did you have another question? I can look through the list here.
Let's see. So there's a question about how can we get documentation for these new features? Don't worry about it. We will make sure that gets in your hands after this session. We've got some documentation we can share right away. Also, I would mention, we're happy to jump on a quick call to walk through this with you again, go deeper into some use cases, kind of take a look at what you're doing with Zingtree today and see how it might impact, the way you've deployed the platform. And so we're ready to engage. Just let us know how we can help, but we will certainly follow up with documentation on the capabilities.
And just to confirm, Kirill, I think we're recording this and we're going to send it. We get a lot of questions about whether or not we'll be sharing the recording here. Yep. I think we'll be sharing the recording with you guys.
Yep, we will. So we have a question about, with Zingtree kind of playing this broker role in the middle of the workflow process. the upcoming AI and contextual integrations, with chat on a website. How could we fit into that scenario? Do you want to take that one, GT?
Sorry, I was reading all you are on the one about our
Sebastian,
plan.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about to bridge everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so our plan is to essentially be that interface, whether it's for the agent or the end user, that interacts, with that end user, and to be able to bring information at the right time, at the right moment. Again, not hold and host that information, just grab it when we need it to make decisions. And so there's no reason there aren't really any systems or limitations to the systems that we can integrate with our integration middleware, other than there has to be some sort of HTTP interface and return JSON format.
Great. And Sebastian, if you want to go deeper on that with us, we'll follow up, and we're happy to chat more about that. It's a topic that's coming up with a lot of our clients who want to get the Zingtree experience kind of linked up with things they're doing with other chatbots and things like that. So we're happy to go deeper into that topic with you. We got a question from Tico. If you have customers that are logged into our own portal, is it possible to automatically fetch information from the customer? So the short answer to that is absolutely. That we do that all the time. There's two things I would mention. One, just using our regular data entry capability through Zingtree, we can get information from that customer in that experience as they're going through our workflow. But like GT showed in the first example that you mentioned with the insurance number input, we can take anything they give us and use that to enrich that data with what we already know about the customer. So if they can give
I think
us,
one step,
yeah,
I think one step further, Brad, was that like even if you don't have to put it, if the user doesn't need to put anything, right?
Sure.
So sure. So you can listen, we've done it, right? We can just basically, from the website kind of launch. We need to find ways to grab information from your systems, right? So it depends on your security teams, but we've done this, right? And then you pass into Zingtree, and then Zingtree then does something with it, right? Then once we have whatever it is, some sort of unique identifier about the authenticated user into our system, then we can pass that on to whatever data source you want us to grab information from. So yes, we've done it. Happy to talk further around your particular situation and how we would make that work.
Perfect. Thanks, GT. So it looks like those are all the questions.
So I think there's another one here from
yes.
Chris. Can Zing recognize an inquiry occurred through one? Got it. Yeah. So so there's ways to kind of track that over time, the various sessions, and link the sessions together. You can pass in some sort of unique identifier, right? Now, just keep in mind that we receive systems from your telephony system. So if somebody calls in and they were previously on a chat, on a chat or on a tree right before, then they would need some sort of system to kind of make sure that we can recognize all the various touch points and link them together, right? We don't live into your telephony system, so unless your telephony system kind of gives us some information so we can connect the dots, then we wouldn't be able to just go into your CCAS and then make the connection and connect the dots between your Zingtree session and the call that came in. Unless that call also came in and then launched another Zingtree, right? All right, we're almost at time, Brad. We had a bunch of questions coming in pre this session here. I will say one good question from Jennifer about the type of tacos that we like. I think we'll skip that one, but Jennifer will answer you privately on the the toppings that we like on our tacos.
Perfect. So if there's any remaining questions that we received, we'll follow up with you guys directly offline as we're out of time here. But great turnout today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. The biggest ask we have leaving the call today is just that we really want to engage with you. We want to have conversations about how you're using Zingtree today. We want to show you. We'll sit down with you and think through how this can impact your business. So please, reach out if you have other questions. We'll be reaching out to you too to see if we can help. And once again, thanks so much for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your week.